Everyone, I'm Allie with the Potomac Bead Company, and I'm going to show you a fast and easy but elegant looking bracelet using some glass pearls and also some crystals or some Czech glass. That's up to you. This bracelet is based on a diagonal stitch or a right angle weave, depending on if you want to do it with one needle or two. I'll be demonstrating with 2 needles, and it's going 2 wide. This bracelet here is done with 6mm, and these are 6mm blue pearls, and these are glass pearls, and I've also used 3mm blue AB Czech glass, as well as 11 seed beads in the galvanized silver color. To cup it off, to clasp it off, I just used a cup button that we have in our silver crystal color. And I'm going to do it a little bit different for the video, just to show a little bit of variety, where instead of using all of one type of bead, I'm going to use 2 different types of beads. And for that, I'm going to use glass pearls again, and I'm using these glass pearls in the lilac color. And then I'm also going to use the light amethyst AB Czech glass, and these are in a 6mm as well. So both beads are in the 6mm. I'm going to be using 11 silver galvanized seed beads, 2 English beading needles, some 3mm Czech glass, and these are a topaz AB color. And in addition to that, I'm using wildfire beading thread in 0.006. I would normally use white. I'm going to use green so you can see it a little bit better. And I have some scissors and my thread burner and some glue. So other than this, you're just going to need whatever type of clasp that you want to do. I'll probably use another cup button on this one as well. But that's the materials that we're going to use to do this nice, simple, elegant, double diagonal bracelet. So to get started with our project, what I've done is I've threaded 2 of my size 10 English beading needles, and they're threaded on the same piece of thread. It's a 5-foot piece of thread that at the end is just doubled over. What I'm going to do to start is I'm going to be starting on the side of my project. So if you look here, we're going to be using 4 beads at a time, and I'm going to start by putting on my glass pearl on one of my needles and letting it drop down to the very middle of my thread. On the right needle then, I'm going to put an 11, my Czech glass, and another 11, and let that drop down. On the other needle, I'm going to put an 11, another one of my glass pearls, and an 11. I'm going to let both of those drop down next to my first original pearl, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another pearl, and I'm going to take my needle and thread, one needle going in from right to left and pulling through, the other needle going left to right, so the thread is crisscrossing between that pearl. If you're a proficient beader and you know right angle weave, you can also do the same pattern with one needle using right angle weave. And I'm just going to make sure after this first one, I'm going to grab both of my needles and make sure that I'm still in the middle of my thread, which I'm not, so I'm just going to push it down to make sure that I am. From now on, the pattern is going to be very simple, and it's going to be very much repetitive. And all we're going to do is keep creating these loops here, making the loops by adding seed bead, bead, seed bead, and then crossing through another bead. Always on my left needle, I'm going to add my Czech glass, because what I'm going to have that do is run a different color down the middle of my bracelet. So on the left side, I'm always going to use my 11 and my Czech glass and drop that down. And then on the right side, I'm going to use my 11s on either side of my glass pearl. After those are in place, I'm going to crisscross through another one of my glass pearls. You can do this with a variety of beads, or like my example, you can do it with all the same bead. It's up to you. And I'm going to continue doing this to get my whole pattern. So I'll do it one more time here, and then we'll take a break and I'll do a bunch of it. You want this, depending on your clasp, to be about 6¼ inches long. If you have a small wrist, you may want it a little bit smaller, because your clasp, you always need to keep in mind, will add some length. I'm going to let those drop down, and again I'm going to grab another pearl. I'm going to cross through that pearl. Right to left, left to right. Pull both pieces of thread through, and continuing on with my design. Again, keep on going with the same design and you'll get the same sort of pattern continuing, and I'm going to continue mine for right about 6 inches. So now that I'm at the end of my row here, I'm getting ready to finish. I'm just going to add my last pearl and cross through it just like I have been doing. And that's going to cross my pearl right through. Give a nice tight tug. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my needle and thread and I'm going to make it so that it's coming out here on the side. I'm going towards the middle with my crystals, or my Czech glass. I'm going to go back through the 11/0, back through my pearl, down the side, and then I'm going to go down here, down my pearl, and through that, through the 11/0, up here, to the top, and through the 11. So I'm circling around that whole unit. Again, if you know right angle weave, you're just going around the whole circle. And basically my threads are coming out in the same place now. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to build another row on the other side. To do that, the thread that is coming out the top rather than the one that is coming out the side of the bead. So this is the one that we just took around, the needle that's in our hand. What I'm going to do to that is I'm going to add a seed bead and one of my glass pearls and a seed bead. That's going to lay right here on the side, and that's going to mimic my other side. The needle that was coming out of the glass pearl that we didn't take around and then just ended this way, we're going to take that down through the 11/0 of the bead next to the Czech glass and through the 11/0 on the other side of that Czech glass. So now I have my bead that's on the side of my right angle or my 4 unit, and I have the bead that's on the bottom. What I'm going to need to add now is my bead that's on the side, and that's going to get added with a pearl and a seed bead. You can see now that's my side bead here. And then all I'm going to do is add another pearl. When I add this other pearl here to become my 4th bead in that rotation there, what I'm going to do is take the needle that's coming out of the Czech glass and I'm going to go through the pearl in the opposite direction. And there you go. I'm going to flip it this way so you can see, just as if I was building it, as we were building the last one, that I have the start of my right angle unit here. All I'm going to do from now on is the needle that's on the left, instead of adding the Czech glass on the left, I'm going to go through the seed bead before the next Czech glass, this Czech glass, and then the 11/0 after it. And that's always going to be the needle on the left to build my second row. Needle on the right gets a seed bead, a crystal, a seed bead, a pearl, a seed bead, and in addition to that, then one more pearl goes on, and that's what we're going to cross through from right to left, and pick up the left needle and go left to right, and that's going to cross that section. And there you have it. So you're always going to have that Czech glass running down the middle, and then on the sides here and crisscrossing, we're going to have the glass pearls. So again, I'll do one more on this side. I'm doing an 11, one of my glass pearls, and an 11. And usually what I do while I'm already over on this side is I put another pearl on, because this is the pearl that I'm going to cross through, and I just let that drop down as well. Let go of that needle, pick up the other needle that's on the left, go through my seed bead, middle bead, my check glass in this case, and through the seed bead on the other side. Give a nice tight pull, and then pick up the second pearl that I put on my right hand needle, and I'm going to cross through that in the opposite direction. And there you have your next row. So you're going to continue that the whole length of the bracelet till you get to the end of the bracelet, and then we will start some of the embellishments. So I'm at the end of my second row that I've done, and I'm just going to show you how to finish this off. This also can be an independent bracelet of itself. It's quite lovely without any embellishments whatsoever. And you can make it as many wide as you want. So you could have done it 3 wide instead of the 2 that we're going to be doing. My needle that's on the left, I just continued taking up through my check glass and my seed beads. Needle that's on the right, I'm going to add my seed bead, my glass pearl, my seed bead. I'm going to add my last glass pearl here. And what I'm going to do to that one then is I'm going to cross through that last glass pearl, and then that completes that second row. What I'm going to do at this point is put on my clasp, and to do so I have one thread already coming out in the middle. The thread that's on the right hand side, just as we did with the previous side when we were getting ready to do the second step, we're passing through all of those beads and seed beads again in that rotation. So that way our needle is coming out at the same spot. So we're going to have both needles and threads coming out right in the middle here. The needle that's coming out of the bead, again, we're just going to let that hang out for a second. The needle that's coming out here in the middle, what I'm going to do is actually embellish a little bit by putting on one of my check glass beads, and that's going to sit right there in the middle. I'm going to put on 3 of my 11-0 seed beads. I'm going to put on my glass button and drop that down. On top, I'm going to put 2, 3 11-0 seed beads. Then I'm going to run my thread back down the other side, so it's coming out the base of my button. If you were attaching a clasp, you would just attach a clasp here if you wanted to do a toggle or if you had made one. You could do that. Once I'm coming out the base, I'm going to add 3 more seed beads. And then I'm going to go back through that bead right there that we added. Give a nice tight pull, and that's going to put that clasp on this side. The needle then that's in my hand, I'm going to take over so that it's coming out this side corner of one of my crystals. The needle here that's coming out on the middle, that was coming out the bead that I haven't touched since my rotation, I'm going to reinforce the clasp that I just did. So I'm taking my needle back through that check glass bead, back through all 3 beads here in my line, out the top, and what that's going to do is reinforce that clasp. It's nice when you use 2 needles because you can easily add the clasps as you're doing your work. Going back through everything here. And you'll notice that it's loose, it's not pulled tight because I have not pulled it tight yet. And what I'm going to do so is to pull that thread that we already passed through. That's going to make it nice and tight, and that puts my clasp right there on the end and adds a little bit to my design as well. With this project, you can embellish this multiple ways. I'm going to show you the first step of how you embellish just doing the diagonal so that it's going to be framing that bead in the middle. What I'm then going to show you on the other side is how you can do an X pattern rather than just the V pattern as well. So I'll show you both patterns on this example here. So if I'm just doing the V pattern, it's very simple and very repetitive. All I'm going to do is take the needle that's on the side of my glass pearl here, so the one that's coming out the corner. I'm going to put on 3 beads. I'm going to put on my check glass, and a 3 or a 4 millimeter will work, and 3 more seed beads. I'm then going to take those, let those drop down next to my bead, and my needle is going to go up to the next pearl that was going diagonal through, and it's going to go just through the pearl from the middle towards the outside of the beads. And that's going to get that first layover. Again, I'm going to put on 3 beads, 1 check glass bead or crystal, you can use anything really, 3 more 11s, and repeat that my bead here is going from the middle through that next glass pearl in that side center line and through. And that gets me that V pattern. On the other side, all I would do is take my needle that's coming out of my clasp, go through the pearl on the left, so I'm coming out the corner, and repeat this on the left hand side, doing my 3 beads, and then my glass, and then my 3 beads. Again on the left, going from the center towards the outside through the next glass pearl. And that's going to get my first little V there. I'll do one more, and then I'm going to show you how to do an X pattern as well. So I'll switch it a little bit. I'm doing my 3 beads, check glass, 3 more seed beads, and again, so that it lays over this way, I'm going to go through my glass pearl, coming out towards the outside with the needle. And that's going to get that little V pattern just like I have in my example bracelet. What I'm going to do now is actually take these out and go back to the starting point where we just had the base, and I'm going to show you how to do X's the whole way along it rather than just the V's. So I'm back to the starting position again where I had my needle off to the side and the other ones coming out to the middle that just reinforced the clasp, and I'm going to show you how to do the X pattern as well. So if I want to do an X pattern, which is going to decorate it a little bit more than the V pattern on the blue bracelet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat the pattern that I just showed you, where I'm doing 3 beads, a check glass, and 3. And again, I'm going to do the exact same thing, where I take my needle towards the side, going through the next pearl. However, on this side, what I'm going to do with my needle on the left is I'm going to put on 3 seed beads. I'm going to go through that check glass that I just put on in the opposite direction. So kind of like we've been doing the whole length of the bracelet, and it's just a repeat. 3 more seed beads. And then this needle is going to go through that same glass pearl, but towards the center. I give it a nice tight pull, and that gets me an X right along the side. Again, all I do is 3 beads on, and I'll show you, in case you're confused a little bit, I'll show you each step rather than doing it all at once. So I put 3 on my right needle, 3 on my left, then I'm going through my check glass bead, needle going right to left, needle going left to right. Give a nice tight pull to do that X. 3 more on the right needle, 3 more on the left needle. And then I'm going to cross through the glass pearl from the base with my needle that's on the left going towards the right, the needle that's on the right going towards the left. And that's going to get my little cross section there. So that's a way that you can kind of vary the bracelet a little bit and vary the design. What I'm going to do is I'm going to continue with the X pattern the whole way down the right side here, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how to add the clasp at the end and then come down on the left. It's going to be the exact same if you're just doing the V style rather than the X style, and I'll show you again how to do the clasps so that way you know if you're doing the V style and you're getting towards the end and you're getting finished, you're getting ready to put on your clasp. So after doing a couple passes, I've actually switched to a Montana blue color because my topaz color just wasn't standing out well. So what I'm going to do now is show you that I'm at the end of my X's, and I have one needle coming out to the right of the pearl and one needle coming out to the left. I'm going to add my loop for my button clasp at this point. The needle that's on the right hand side, I'm just going to let that hang out for a second. The needle that's coming out towards the left, towards the middle of my project, is what I'm going to use to add my loop. And just like the other side, I'm going to take one of my Czech glass beads and I'm going to feed that down right to the middle. And then I'm going to make a loop out of my 11 seed beads that is big enough for my button to go right through. If you want to, you can also dress it up by using some of your Czech glass that you're doing, or you can even do a peyote loop. And if you don't know peyote, you can watch some of our other videos and learn peyote as well. But we're going to put all of these beads on right now, feeding them all on to my needle. Again, enough beads so that when I make my loop, it's going to be big enough to go right around my button. So now that I have my beads on my needle, I'm going to come back down through that 6mm Czech glass and then over towards the other side of my project where I'm going to start to do my X's. I'm going through the whole way to the other side. That's going to pull my loop. The thread that is on the right hand side that's just been hanging out there, what I'm going to do is circle it around my project. If you want to, you can flip it over so that way you can see what you're doing on the back, and the X's that you made on the front or the V's don't distract you from it. I'm going the whole way along my project through the last little right angle or the last little square. I'm going to come out the Czech glass bead and I'm going to go up through the Czech glass bead that I added and come out towards the loop. What I'm going to do then is take my needle and reinforce the whole way, coming down then through my Czech glass bead and coming through that seed bead, so I'm coming out on the side of one of my pearls. So after you're done creating your loop, you want to make sure that your thread and needle are coming out the first pearl on the opposite side. So I did this side here. I want to make sure that it's coming out the opposite side. And all I'm going to do is repeat that X pattern that I did. So all I'm going to do again is put 3 beads on, one of my Czech glass, and 3 beads on. If I'm coming from the center, I'm going to go towards the center with my needle, making that little V shape. And on the other side here, I'm going to put my 3 beads on, sharing that Czech glass bead. And then 3 more beads go on. Then I'm going towards the outside with this one. And that's going to sit nice and form that little X version that I was talking about. I'm going to continue forming this X the whole length of my bracelet, just doing that same pattern of the 3 on each needle, crossing through the Czech glass, and 3 on each needle, and then going either from right to left if you're coming out the center one, or going left to right if you're coming out the other one. And we're just going to continue building those X's the whole length of the bracelet. So you have another bracelet like this if you are doing the X pattern. That is the Hugs and Kisses bracelet. So this almost looks like a double Hugs and Kisses. And you're just going to, again, continue forming that little X. I like how I put the Czech glass in the middle so it has a little bit more shine in the middle. It almost looks like it's creating a diamond around that Czech glass. You're just going to continue going and moving right along to the end of your project. So I'm at the end of my clasp here. I've done my last cross and my last X, and all I'm going to do is get my needles basically to the same point. Right now they're coming out of a pearl on opposite sides. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed them, again, just like we've been doing, through the entire right angle, unit, so that way they're coming out at the same point. Whenever you work with 2 needles, it's rather easy to end and to clasp because you're just going to tie those 2 together. So at this point my needles are coming out at the exact same spot. I want to go to the back of my project so that way it's kind of hidden my knot a little bit. Take your needles off and you're going to do a couple knots. All I'm going to do then to those knots after I do it is a little dab of glue. And after that dab, I'm just going to cut my threads nice and short. And then your project is nice and finished. So whether or not you decide to do the double diagonal here with the X's, or if you decide to go with the V look, both are going to look nice and fairly substantial. And the rest, again, you can go multiple wide. You can switch it from 6s to 4. There really are tons and tons and tons of varieties that you can do on this bracelet to get that nice designed look. And again, I did a peyote on that clasp here. I just kept this one nice and simple. So you can change it up a little bit depending on what you want to do with it. But it's a very simple, elegant bracelet done with that double diagonal stitch there at the base. So the bottom is always going to be too wide. You can do multiple colors, you can do multiple sizes, you can change it up too. So don't limit yourself to whatever you have. You can step out, grab some new stuff, and have fun with this as well. Thanks a lot for watching. If you get a chance, check out our other YouTube videos. Also, you can visit our retail stores. To get those locations, go to PotomacBeads.com, click on our locations tab, and visit the store near you. If you can't get to a store to pick up materials or to take a class in person, which we'd love to have you in one of them, you can shop online at thebeadco.com. Have a great rest of your day and happy beading!